Young African, aspire to be a Mandela Rhodes Scholar if you dream of being a leader in whose blend of character and intellect Africa will take pride. Aspire to this if you believe that you have within you moral force of character and instinct to lead, and understand that leadership is more than just personal ambition. It is also service, requiring the will and capacity to inspire and develop fellow human beings towards their own excellence. Aspire to be a Mandela Rhodes Scholar if you believe in reconciliation, in freedom, in peace and prosperity for all human beings who should share equal citizenship and opportunities in this world. Aspire to be a Mandela Rhodes Scholar if you believe that the past, in all its imperfections, should be harnessed for the benefit of the present and the future. Good evening, Mandela Rhodes family. It has been an incredibly beautiful day for me to sit and be with you in the way that we were this afternoon, and to now gather with the broader community. I see more ancestors have joined us from the earlier years. And of course, it doesn't go lightly for me that I understand the significance of what it means that I'm standing in front of you as one of your own, as an alumni. Scholars, when we then think about the strategic future of the institution, it really is about how do we begin to expand our impact, right? We're 16 years old now as an organization. And of course, for me, alumni are quite crucial to that conversation. I'm glad to see that some of you already started to pick up that in the exercises we were doing earlier, asking you the kinds of questions we're asking you is because we're seeing the importance of what this community can be, the responsibility that this community has, but also how do we co-create it together. We all know that the continent faces some really difficult challenges, and it is up to us to be able to really step forward into answering the call that Madiba left for us. And I really want to remind us about a section that Madiba spoke to in his speech at Westminster when the foundation was launched. He said, "Ours is the name for the laborer who toils on the African farm, fighting for a life of dignity. The girl child battling against the odds for an opportunity to realize her potential. The poor AIDS orphan bereft of family care. The rural poor eking for subsistence, deprived of the most basic services and facilities. It is in their names and in others like theirs that we lend our name to this initiative, seeking that we build a better future for them." So in fact, our mandate is very clear from Madiba. What we are called to do as Mandela Rhodes alumni is to begin to draw on each other's strengths, our diversities, our experiences, learn and say, well, how did you deal with that question in your home country? How did you manage this in the way in which you're thinking about rolling out the project? It's through harnessing this potential of this community. And I really do believe that Mandela Rhodes Scholars can actually come up with the innovative solutions to help us think differently. Because a big part of the reason why we see the issues we see in society is because no one's willing to put the time to think differently. It's really to begin to say, I'm in power, so how do I think about myself? I mean, Michaela Wrong's book on Kenya, It's Our Turn to Eat, spoke quite deeply about the problem of post-coloniality, which is the minute the very liberation movement gets into power, all they want to do is to say, how do we amass as much as possible for us? And so I think part of that responsibility as scholars is when we are in leadership positions, how do we show up differently? How are we the ones to show that, in fact, you're not going to take and put in your pocket? Because I can assure you, it is so easy. The way in which deals are done, and I mean, the stories I've been hearing on the Africa-China trade, I mean, it's like basically these guys, look, there's a Swiss account right there for you. All you have to do is sign this. It's that easy, and it's like there will never be a trace. So how do we as scholars who really know the mandate that's placed to us by Madiba step beyond that, be the ones in the room to have the courage to say, no, actually, we're not going to do that. And to understand that it's going to be very difficult to be the lone voice, but that ethics and courage and integrity is a crucial part of beginning to help us to shift this continent into a different place. So a question arises in me then is, how do we want to be together as we think about this kind of collective effort of changing our continent? Perhaps put differently, what does it mean for us to be a community? And I think earlier on this was also raised. This is an ever-evolving question that I think each cohort, each group of alumni asks itself. And really from the earliest cohorts of Mandela Rhodes Scholars, the idea of MRF family has been in existence. And for me, I think this is an expression around a sense of full embrace. It speaks to a sense of warmth, comfort, encouragement that we can be ourselves. Zazi agrees. A place that feels like home. And I mean, this is quite a daring proposition for an organization, right? To talk to this idea of family, especially an organization with such an esteemed name, such as Mandela Rhodes Foundation. But in many senses, it's daring because, of course, families also have their complexities, right? With family members who will deeply disappoint us when they behave outside the values that we've all ascribed to. So when we do hurt each other, and it is going to happen because we're a family, intentionally or unintentionally, when our expectations of each other are unmet, or we disappoint each other, when a space that was meant to be safe and trustworthy no longer feels like that, how will we choose to be as a family? How will we choose to be as a family? I think current discourse speaks to this idea of safe space, and I know that the foundation has also been referred to in this way. And part of some of the common definitions is around a space that ideally does not provoke a sense of judgment based on your identity or experience, where the expression of both can exist and be affirmed without fear of retaliation and without the pressure to feel like you have to constantly educate people. While learning can occur in these spaces, ultimately the goal is to provide support. So when I think about my own personal values, authenticity and safety are very high. So I know that I'm very drawn to the idea of how the foundation could continue to be that space for all of us. And I think as we experience the gift of what it means to be in a safe space, it means that we can then go out into the rest of the world as we interact with other people and create that space for others. I do, however, want to propose that we couple the idea of safe space by also embracing the idea of brave space. So what is a brave space? A brave space encourages dialogue. It recognizes difference in opinions and that others may have alternative perspectives to the ones that we hold, and in fact will sometimes challenge our very fundamental beliefs. Systems thinker Donella Meadows says that you're not really aware of some of your fundamental beliefs until they're challenged by others. And I think when you notice yourself feeling that rub, know that this means someone has a fundamentally different paradigm to yours that in that moment is being rubbed. A brave space is about holding each other accountable to do the work of sharing our experiences and coming to new understandings, a task that is often hard and typically very uncomfortable. But if we are to truly feel safe and supported, that safety must also come with the courage of being able to step into the arena. And this is a phrase that Dr. Brené Brown speaks to in her book, Dare to Lead. What does it mean to step into the arena? Be willing to have uncomfortable conversations with each other. Let's be humble to listen. Let's admit when we have erred. And let's adopt a growth mindset that none of us are perfect, including me, especially me. And I love the support and encouragement, but what will deeply break me is if I don't have space to be imperfect. That will absolutely break me. It's about saying, actually, leadership, I'm seeing things from this perspective. I don't know if you're seeing it. Let's have a conversation. And part of what a brave space is also about is admitting that we're ever evolving beings who will be made more whole through life's experiences. So for the MRF to truly live out its calling through its scholars, it has to be a co-created space. This is our space. This is our foundation. This is our vision. This is what Madiba wanted us to do, is to be able to take responsibility for the success of this institution. And in fact, part of what we're driving in the next strategic agenda is directly linked to the impact study we did last year, where we asked alumni across cohorts to give us feedback. We're thinking about the strategy. Where do you see the next horizon? And so in fact, whenever we reach out, it's not a glib exercise for us. It is a direct request to say, your voice in this institution actually matters. And that's part of my commitment, is that when we reach out to you and we say, scholars, let's hear your perspectives, we actually mean it. So really, when in doubt, reach out, because you really can actually have very valuable input that we as a foundation may not be considering, not because we're ignoring an issue, but perhaps maybe you are exactly the person that has that lens that can help us to think about a problem to create the change. Of course, it's nice to be able to reach out about the bad stuff, but guys, we also like the good stuff, right? So please, please, please do reach out to us. And I think especially seeing all the efforts and work that the team has been putting through. It's been incredible for me to step into this leadership role and really begin to see what an incredibly privileged CEO I am, to have the kind of team that I have. And I do want to take this moment to ask the team members that are here to please stand up so we can acknowledge you. Siobhan, Gigi, Coralie, Jess, Abby. So as Abby mentioned earlier, my career began as an organization development practitioner. And really, this was around working with organizations and talking about how do we create a place where people can really work and thrive? How do we think about the institution and its role in society? And teams is one of the most crucial things. I mean, I know, like, if I wanted to make some big bucks, I can start up my own consultancy, because dysfunctional teams, and I'm sure you all have your stories, is like the biggest issue in society. So when I say I feel extremely privileged to have the team I have, I don't say that lightly. It's because I really know and understand what it means to have a dysfunctional team. So I really want to honor you, MRF team members, for the way in which you show up, for your own courage, for your dedication, for the passion and excellence, right? And I think that's part of this idea of building an excellent African institution. And so, not having to worry about, the team, then we can really think about how do we move forward and drive the strategic agenda. So there's really kind of 4 key areas that we are thinking about as an organization, and I'm really excited to continue to get your input into that. The first, of course, speaks to Mr. Madiba's vision that this be a program and an initiative that benefits all of Africa. So we are now in 28 African countries, and I've been having some good conversations with the team to say, part of the MRF, it's like we're quite laissez-faire, and there's something good about that. Like, yeah, let's go with the flow and let's see. But it's also like, come on, put a mark in it, stretch yourselves. What is it? So I said to the team, guys, we're turning 20 in a few years' time, 3 years, ne? Yeah, I said, so then I think 40 countries in 20 years sounds good, doesn't it? That's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair, right? Yeah, so 40 in 20, hey? So the one big thing then is to say, how do we become really strategic in making sure that this opportunity can then spread to more countries. And the West Africa and North Africa region is where we're really struggling. So we're going to really try and need to draw on our alumni to give us inputs and advice around what are the networks there that we can tap into to ensure that deserving young Africans from these countries can have the most incredible experience that you too have had and can go back into their own home countries. The second pillar then looks at the idea of advancing global thought leadership that is embedded in African perspectives. So what that talks to is how do we begin to showcase our alumni, work alumni doing, the thinking that alumni are bringing in terms of different ways of being. And you can see that through our Young African magazine, we're beginning to build that, and there's a lot of positive responses. It's really about saying, like, how do we advance the MRF way of being in thinking about critical issues, and also making sure that we convene symposiums where, given the particular topic, alumni Mandela Rhodes scholars are driving those conversations and those conferences, while we also bring in people in our network. And then excitingly within that pillar is the launch of podcasts that we're going to bring about. And what's exciting about that is just to bring to life some of the stories and journeys, because I mean, the incredible, just the tapestry in this room alone. And think about it, we have 450 alumni in 25 African countries. What are the stories that are unheard? What are the experiences? What are the lessons? What are the real leadership grapplings that people have failed? Let's talk about how we dismally failed and what we learned about it. Let's share and be able to spread that message out, because we know that podcasting as a platform is a very powerful way to get information out in ways that can help transform people. The third focal point speaks to obviously ensuring that our leadership development program continues, our in-residence leadership program continues to remain in exceptional standard that it has been over the past 16 years. And we want to particularly embed the second-year program that was launched this year. So what the second-year program really looked at was how do we capacitate our scholars to work across disciplines on a particular social challenge, and then be able to say, how do you want to solve for this in a meaningful way? And it was really a chance to help scholars to practice the muscle of what it means to actually go out there in the real world. Because I think as alumni, we all know, we actually go into the workplace and we deal with people from very different disciplines, different perspectives, and so we wanted to be able to capacitate our scholars in that, and so important for us to embed that. And also, hopefully, my dream is to see some of the solutions that are coming out, that the groups of scholars can actually potentially take those on as they go forward, and or that we may find people who want to invest in the ideas and spread. So that's part of it. And then, of course, the last bit speaks to alumni, right, which is you. And there's four main areas around, like kind of the desired offering for alumni. And this is about how do we help alumni expand their impact in the world. This is the first theme is around offering you continued personal leadership development support, right? This includes early to mid-career mentoring. It speaks to developing a leadership development program for social impact. So, you know, again, Abby had sent out a survey a few months ago, asking alumni whether people have new ideas they want to think about, or people who are already in organizations and feel they'd like to have that leadership development in understanding what it means to actually lead and the dynamics of being in senior management at a young age. So we're still developing that, and I'm really excited about that. It's like there's going to be like the new program baby, and see how that evolves over time. But that's an opportunity that alumni can tap into where you want to further develop your skills. And then, of course, the beauty of it, of our alumni offering also speaks to those who may perhaps have gone out and worked, and you want to now go and pursue further studies in terms of doctoral studies, and we already have in place the Lever Hugh Mandela Rhodes Doctoral Scholarship, which is only available to MRF alumni. So that's a lovely opportunity to say within the personal development support space, there'll be career mentoring. And for each of us, I mean, when I think about myself now, yes, I'm the CEO, but being connected to other like female CEOs and like sharing stories, and I'm very privileged that I'm part of this group of female CEOs from around the globe. There's 11 of us, and it's like just learning the lessons, like kind of like, and the war stories that these guys have gone through, you know. So at each stage of your life, the idea of being able to have access to mentoring, and I think we always think about mentoring like, oh, okay, shame, like for these little guys who just gone out, but actually how do we provide mentoring that will be useful at different stages? The second one is about physical convening and online platforms. So tomorrow, Abigail's going to announce a very exciting development in the foundation around on our virtual platform, which we've done all the research. We've asked all the different alumni organizations, what to create, what not to create, what's bombs out, what hasn't. And this like really feels like a really cool, easy way for us to keep connected. And what this space is about, both the virtual and the in-person gatherings like we're having now, is to provide opportunities to connect socially and professionally with alumni across cohorts. And our hope is that you guys can actually tap into each other's expertise across the different sectors, draw relevant lessons, as I'd mentioned earlier, and really begin to say, how do we advance our work at an individual level, at group level, at country level, or at regional level. So we are going to help convene and help encourage spaces of gathering physically and online, and then the hope is that alumni drive that within their own spaces. The thought leadership element that speaks to the alumni offering is actually around some of the conversations I'm beginning to have with some global organizations that are interested to say, for example, I attended a conference in Oxford 3 weeks ago. The foundation was the only organization from the African continent that was in this space. So organizations that are specifically working on scholarship and leadership development. And we were identified as the only one in the continent that really symbolizes excellence. And then I was there with like the Knight Hennessy Scholarship, which is in Stanford, obviously the Rhodes Scholarship at Oxford, the McCormick Bain Scholarship in McGill, the Schwarzman Scholarship in Beijing, et cetera, et cetera. And part of the question they're asking is, how do we build a global network of these alumni, these top leaders in the different regions, and begin to connect them? What does it look like if we connect at a global level? And so I'm excited about that potential initiative, and that alumni will be able to, put their hands up for those opportunities. And the different, each year, it's really the beginning stages, but we're thinking about different topics each year. And so depending on what your area of interest is, applying for that opportunity and being able to connect with others from around the world. Another one speaks to connecting to social impact initiatives globally, and we've been in conversation with an organization in Atlanta. I was trying to think about how do we combine culture and music and the arts as a form of social transformation. And I was like, Keenan, your area there. And so there'll be nice opportunities around that. And then within that, they've also got stuff around urbanization and cities and climate change. And they're really wanting to create, again, some almost global partnership stuff. So we're looking and exploring that. And the point there is to say, how do we advance global thought leadership rooted in African perspectives? And I'm really excited that as alumni, with what you're doing and the work that you're working on, to connect to these broader networks and being able to show the excellence that the continent can bring. And then, of course, the last one is giving back to the foundation. And I think many of you have already been involved in that. And it includes, volunteering for our mentoring program, applications and selections, being advisors to our second year program, being mentors to our first year scholars, class giving, speakers at our workshops, at our pods, selection committees, finance committees, as well as investment committees. And so what's exciting for me about this is that regardless of what stage of development you are on, as an alumni, the offerings are comprehensive enough to allow you to be able to tap in different ways, both in terms of drawing from, but also being able to give back to others within the community. So I hope that as I kind of paint the picture, and Abby will go into a little bit of detail tomorrow, you begin to see that as a foundation, we're thinking very consciously about how to harness the energy of this network, how to ensure that we give you the tools and resources to really go and I think we spoke to this earlier, go and expand your light and shine your light out there. And we really look forward to collaborating with you and co-creating this alumni space, because we are putting dedicated resources now in our work towards driving the alumni agenda. In conclusion, family, the task of leadership is not an easy one. But it is actually very rewarding when you can start to see the incredible value and the positive change that your efforts can bring. So don't be discouraged when you do face the inevitable stumbling blocks. Know that you are part of a very, very large African family that will be there for you in the moments when you are feeling down. They will be there to help to lift you up and remind you that you can try again. May we all continue to live Madiba's dream, and that his dream could come alive in our lifetime, to see a truly transformed African continent for the betterment of our people. Young African, may we never cease to aspire to be. Thank you.